This episode is brought to you by our Patreon supporters. Today's patron of the day is Silly Spaghetti. Patrons get the show always ad-free and access to the extended episode with bonus content. If you don't want to miss all of that, go to patreon.com/calltheline. That's patreon.com/calltheline.
Yeah, patrons, you will get the get that show. Whether there's a bonus show today, it'll be on a delay. There may or may not be, but there's lots of bonus shows to go back and listen to. And we'll soon be announcing this month's special Zoom event as well as the LineCon Online Live, which there's probably some scheduling things that have changed for what may be obvious reasons. But I do digress. We go on now to the show. Welcome back, everybody. It is September 12th, 2025. And we are recording this with a limited amount of information. We're going to be going with the information we do have, but we are recording the same day to try and have it be a little bit more up to date. But we will obviously be talking about the identity of the person who, well, I mean, since the last episode, also the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which happened on September 10th at around 12:20 in the afternoon at UVU. Tyler Kirk, the popular political influencer. And if you believe a lot of the ways they are changing what he was about, just the greatest person to ever live, according to a lot of people on the internet, especially the people who are like, oh, we don't want to look too divisive, so we're going to fire a guy, for example, who pointed out that this is a guy who, in more elegant words than this, came from a very violent ideology. And that violent ideology was being honestly discussed at the moment of his demise.
Yeah.
And so,
sorry.
Yeah, go on.
I was just going to say that's been the interesting thing about the truly horrific things people have been saying in my DMs in response to things, in response to, actually, baseline, this was wrong. People should not be getting murdered. Sorry, it's just, as a human being, it's wrong. Beyond that, sharing what he has literally said has gotten me some of the most horrifying messages in response, which is just interesting because similar to what you were saying, it's like, it's things that he's actually said that are just being redistributed. It's not like, how much stuff could you possibly take out of context?
Yeah. So there's a lot at play. First of all, yes, bypassing due process in any way, let alone murder, is wrong. I know there's going to be some level of, maybe somebody's already preparing a comment, because whenever shows like this happen, and I've already done a couple of live things and did call-in discussions with people who called in with just some unhinged, stupid things to say. But there's a lot of like tone checking. Are they having a somber enough tone? Are they? And, I feel the overcorrection on the right, acting like this man was a saint and not a fascist, is wild and crazy. And I'm not going to do the like, I'm gonna take on an artificial tone and blah, 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 and pretend I feel ways I don't feel. But I don't believe in bypassing a person's due process, and certainly not for assassination. That would be the highest level of it being wrong. Murder is wrong. So, for example, this week, Charlie Kirk being murdered was wrong. The week prior, the murder of those Venezuelans on that boat by the president, as supported by Charlie Kirk, also wrong. And since it was 7 of them, you could suggest maybe 7 times as wrong, because the due process was bypassed and individuals were murdered for something that we don't even give people the death penalty for here in the United States. And so the fact of the matter is while condemning that thing is wrong, I'm also not going to sit here and pretend there are going to be certain things I don't know yet how I feel about it. Of course, it's tempting to have that first moment of, well, here's the impact I saw he was doing. Here's the negative he was doing in the world. And now that's done. That's over. And one might feel like a sense of relief, whether they want to or not, even if they feel bad about it, that they might feel that sense of relief. However, I'm not even ready to commit to that sense of relief because I don't know that he doesn't Obi-Wan this thing, that he isn't more powerful in death than he ever was in life. There's a lot of conflicting feelings. And then going over to Twitter, where I like to watch the Nazis be Nazis, you just see how unhinged things get. And these people who are acting like we are the party of nonviolence, the left is the party of violence, which is going to be interesting as we get into what we know so far about the shooter, which could be up for change. But what we know so far, they're posting things like this. This is literally in my secret Twitter feed right now. I got in a fight over Charlie Kirk. They swung on me first, to be fair, self-defense. I hit them once for Charlie, once for hating Trump, and one more for getting blood on my Rolex. He's out cold as I'm tweeting this. Cop should be here any minute. Wish me luck. First of all, none of that happened, right? Like, this is a person trying to sound tough and cool. Second, you actually are admitting to committing crimes because self-defense, you can't, for example, if somebody, there's a movie, I'm trying to remember what it was called. If somebody's running, for example, and you have a bat, you can't kill them because they broke into your house, right? Even though you could use that bat to defend yourself. And so describing that he apparently like has the option to throw an additional punch over the anger of the blood on the Rolex is in my self-defense ended and now I was punching on behalf of how I was. Your self-defense only actually goes one way. But again, go ahead, use Twitter's thing, Grok, and ask it, who commits more political violence, the left or the right? It's the right by a wide margin, But then we get, and they want to start doing things of highlighting. This is that sort of confirmation bias, very selective in what they're showing, highlighting like, oh, look at times that Joe Biden called Donald Trump the greatest threat. And it's literally like, sir, nobody talks more violently and maliciously about their political opponents than Donald Trump. Like, what award do you think you're going to win here? This is a people who, like, the Proud Boys were like, we're on standby. He used a military or stand back and stand by when addressing the Proud Boys. This is the guy. It's just silly. It's just silly. And let's not forget that within the last 24 hours, I believe it might have been a little bit more. I think it's within the last 24 hours. Donald Trump Jr. described the trans people as worse than Al-Qaeda.
Right.
And so it's kind of like, if you want to say words lead to violence, who on the right would say it's ever not righteous to commit violence against Al-Qaeda, but trans people are worse?
Charlie also had a comment about how abortions are worse than the Holocaust.
Right.
And someone confirmed that with him and said, are you saying abortions are worse than the Holocaust? And he said, yes.
Right.
And that's on video.
Not to mention, when describing God's perfect description of marriage and love, quoting the prescription for homosexuality as laid out in Leviticus. He while coming short of saying himself, therefore I say the government do it, described God's prescription of putting queer people to death as the perfect law, that it's God's perfect law, and that to perfectly love a person, you need to tell them that. So let's get into now what we've learned about the individual who is alleged to have performed the shooting, and it probably is him. I mean, it's looking like it's this guy. He is a 22-year-old male named Tyler Robinson. There's no point in withholding the name anymore. The media has made even attempts to try and not do that pointless. This is an individual who evidently, in the wake of everything, confessed to his father, who seems to have, based on the words that people are using, because people who aren't Mormon get very confused about what the right terms are. So this is the part that could change, but I believe this is a person who they went to a family friend who apparently was a police officer. Again, some of these details could get mixed, but some outlets are describing it as a minister. A lot of people being confused. Wait, a cop and a minister? Mormon clergy, Mormon leadership, whatever you want to call it, your local clergy, they don't get paid to do it. So you are the bishop and you have to have a day job, right? It's only when you get up to the higher levels that you're getting any kind of income, often very sketchy income. For those who don't know, I grew up Mormon, not just Mormon, very Mormon, with a father similarly in such clergy positions. Was very, very, I enjoy, for example, when Mormons call in and try to argue with me, because the chances that a Mormon knows more about the church than I do, even just if you cut off all the things I've learned after, very, very little. So it likely was something like a bishop. I'm guessing it was a bishop, perhaps a member of the bishopric, who is that they are referring to, because it does seem to be confirmed. This technically could change too, but it seems to be confirmed that he grew up in a conservative Mormon home. Even an account like End Wokeness, writing, from a regular middle-class family, good grades, went off to college, became an extremist Antifa killer. Doesn't mention that, not unlike a lot of Mormons do, dropped out of college within the first semester. So it wasn't went off to college and college made him an extremist Antifa killer. You're only going with Antifa because he had anti-fascist messages written on the gun casing. No trans messaging written on the casing, as people have been trying to do. And that's actually where I'm going to start with this, with kind of recapping this. Surely this will now mean that all of the people bullying and doxing the trans people that they were saying was the shooter for the last few days with 4chan, and then it eventually making its way to Reddit, them attacking these different individuals, a person who didn't fuck with anybody named Sky, and many others. Surely those people will no longer be bullied, right? Like, we're going to stop with the bullying and the doxing of them. We're done with them. Because that's what the right has been up to. Similarly as these amateur sleuths have once again failed, as they did with so many things leading up to now, as they were just absolutely sure they needed to find the trans person responsible, even though trans people are far less likely to be committing violence. Hopefully they will take note of how bad they are, but also, can we take a note that the FBI didn't do fucking shit? That up until this person confessed himself and then was brought to the police station, Kash Patel up there today going like, this is what happens when you let police be police. What? The person feels guilty or whatever the motivation was and ends up confessing and coming in. You guys didn't do fucking shit. This is like, how incompetent is the FBI that we didn't even have pictures for so long when you're on a manhunt? How is the number one thing, like, getting those fucking images off of cameras and out into the public dispersed? Be like, have you seen this guy? Because this is all we have and we're not finding him.
Well, I also, didn't they just fire the person who worked in the FBI in Utah, like, not that long ago? And she was like, I'll find her name. She was very experienced, and there was no real reason that I could discern that she had gotten fired. The reason they cited is that she was not effective and that she was not doing her job well, but she was very experienced and also a brown woman. So, do with that what you will. So I don't know. I guess they were also working with an FBI that was down one very experienced person in their very direct surrounding. But yeah, I also always think it's interesting that we have the ability to have like 4K cameras and we surveil so much, especially around schools, that when we have images, they're always kind of like not that great. It always kind of surprises me. There's no conspiracy there. It's just like generally, I'm just surprised that the images that we have are never really that great, but what can you do?
You have people, so now is like, it's that they can't let any side of it be the truth. Their narrative has to be their narrative. So how they're going to describe Charlie Kirk as some kind of moderate. Already right now, Mike Lee, the senator, I believe it's that Mike Lee. Let me double check, make sure it's the one I think it is. The senator from Utah, suggesting people, okay, it could be a different Mike Lee because it doesn't just say it straight up in his bio. But there is a Mike Lee, I think it is him, it looks exactly like him, saying, share if you agree that the estate of Charlie Kirk should sue Stephen King for defamation. Stephen King having written that he's not a moderate. He advocated for stoning gays to death, just saying. You're going to sue for defamation? It's literally fucking true. It's literally fucking true. Right underneath, somebody asking Grok, did he reference the Bible verse calling for gays? Yes, Charlie Kirk referenced 2013, which calls for putting gay people to death during the 2024 event in the University of Wisconsin. He described it as God's perfect law when it comes to sexual matters. That's
what I'm saying. It's like I can absolutely empathize with a human being, you know, having their life taken from them, sure, but to try and make him something that he was not is just foolish, especially because he was a person who created so much content online. Like, you can't turn around and say he was misquoted, he was taken out of context, whatever, because we have the full context. We have him in video doing these things in long form, in short form. He does them over and over again. He was very proudly these things. So like, I am having a hard time with more. It's been interesting because when Trump won again, actually when he won the first time, when he won this time, the people who celebrated that win, I was for most people, I was like, okay, well, like, screw you guys. But for some people I could say, okay, there's some like willful ignorance here. I think that you're not seeing the full picture. I have a really hard time seeing how people couldn't see the full picture of who he was, especially now, especially after the fact. In the upfront, actually my dad had said the first day when we were having dinner, like after we had found out, he was like, I was explaining, you know, Charlie Kirk has said some like really harmful, violent things. And he's like, I haven't seen any of that. I've only seen, you know, and I said, oh, have you seen him be like religious? And he was like, yeah. He's like, that's what my feed has been showing me. So we sat together and I like scrolled through all these other videos and he was like, wow, like I did not see any of that. But now all of this stuff is bubbling up to the surface again. It's extremely easy to find. So like, I'm having a stronger response to the people who are so in defense of Charlie Kirk than I am to the people who in the beginning were still sort of celebrating Trump. Now I think you don't really have an excuse, but in the beginning, perhaps.
I'm just not doing their game. And this is their thing, is like, now we're going to go crazy with it. And if you don't validate our craziness, then we're going to label you an extremist. And so it doesn't matter. It's like, at this point, I'm not going to even put on the gloves of like, all right, well, it's a delicate matter. A person has died.
Yeah.
I don't have those gloves anymore because y'all are even when it's your own people, this is the cynicism of it. These own people that you love, you're like, well, let's not waste this opportunity to now, by the way, again, acting like you're superior when it's an individual. And we're going to get into the upbringing of this individual in a moment. It's an individual who did this and you're going, okay, well, this means that it's open season and we can now advocate for violence against the left and who we determine are the left and the people that we can determine are the wokes and we determine are, which means you were never pro freedom of speech.
Right.
Because there is no collective organization, even of people who are going like, woo, I'm glad he's gone, are not asking people to go and do more of it. Right. And again, I'm not one of those people. Even those people that are like, it's a righteous kill or whatever, they're not going out and doing the kills themselves. But the people who do celebrate kill after kill after kill of innocent people, like even the people who, and I understand seeing visceral death can be traumatizing to anybody, but there is something a little bit telling about the people who have been like, I saw that and now I have to speak out about how unrighteous it is and how far has humanity fallen. And it's literally like, oh, so you haven't watched what's been happening in Gaza. If you think this is a big deal, I've watched kids get blown to fucking bits.
Do you want to know? Do you want to know what I also think is like? Because the Gaza thing, it's not nuanced. People are going to make it sound nuanced. A more direct line to me was when George Floyd had a police officer kneel on his neck until he died, and we had video of that circulated the internet. And then people marched in support of the lack of justice that he, not in support of the lack of justice, but to support him and his family and how unjust that situation was. And then that was viewed as a violent act. And now all of a sudden, we're holier than thou when Charlie Kirk, who was in that very moment spewing hate and was unfortunately shot, still shouldn't have happened. But like, how are you not? But this is the thing, is it's like, no matter how much we do this, no matter how many years we play this game, it just feels like we're screaming into the void of people who refuse to have a fucking critical thought. It's
they
just
won't follow
unbelievable.
any quote unquote rules, and they depend on the fact that we will. Because if we were acting like Charlie Kirk would have, a conservative would have, right now, we'd start all the conspiracies of like, first of all, it's a false flag. Second, if it's not, I bet he was killed by his gay lover. I heard that was his gay lover, that's what happened, like they did with Paul Pelosi. And we start talking about maybe bail out that gay lover so we can get answers, right? Or, sure, he got shot in the neck, but I heard he had fentanyl in his system and that's what killed him. Because that's the George Floyd line. I heard it was the fentanyl that was in his system. That's the fucking shit the right does. They don't play by any kind of like rules of good engagement. They just lie. And this is why maybe they don't actually think he was an extremist, because they're like, but we say such crazier shit than he does. He's like the baseline. So how could he be an extremist? Because I'm more extreme and I don't consider it's like the people who are so dumb and they always say, I consider myself a skeptic, or I consider myself very logical. I consider myself very intellectual. And it's like, yeah, well, no one else does, including your mom.
Right. Well, I also, that's why the Charlie Kirk thing, even more than Trump, feels like the biggest dog whistle to me, that you are a white supremacist, that you are racist, that you are misogynist, that you're transphobic, that you are all of these things that I am so staunchly against, even more than Trump. Because with Trump, then you can say, well, I don't like who he is, but I support his tax, like his financial plan, which still makes you an idiot. But like, at least that you're making an attempt to not make it a moral and ethical thing. And again, I still think you're an idiot, but like there's some level of benefit of the doubt there. With Charlie Kirk, if you support that man, you are supporting someone who is loud and proud about being all of these horrible things. And so then that means that you don't think that what he was saying was extreme. And that is like, oh no. Oh no. That feels like the equivalent to me of like, you just told me you're on QAnon. You just told me that you are like, you have MAGA tattooed on your ass. Like, this is like, people who support Charlie Kirk don't feel a far cry to me from being literal Nazis. I mean, you supported one. So I'm truly floored at the level of support that Charlie Kirk had. But I think that there are many people who probably didn't engage with his content that much, but are using him as a martyr and as a symbol. And that's what he's going to continue to be, unfortunately, whether we like it or not.
Yeah. And look, they're going to paint it every way they can that he was an angel and this man was a leftist monster, and he wasn't. He grew up. I don't know what his politics are yet because that hasn't been actually released, but we know he didn't like Trump and he didn't like Charlie Kirk. He grew up as a conservative Mormon from all of the information that we have right now. He grew up in a right-wing Mormon family. And guess what? So did I. So this is going to be fun because as far as debaters go from our channel, from The Line, from my channel, Jimmy Snow, I'm in a little bit of a unique position. You're not going to get to fucking gaslight me. Because I'll tell you what I know. I know exactly where the culture of the Constitution is a holy document. The Second Amendment is a holy amendment. And one day you're going to have to defend your rights and the rights of people you love using a gun. That I know where the apocalyptic mindset is, the reverence for the idea of solving problems with guns. I know exactly where it came from because I sat in those goddamn pews. You don't get to gaslight me on this one. I know whether or not he is currently a leftist. He's 22 years old.
Right.
If he left the church, which again, I don't know, because you don't actually have to leave the church. A lot of people try to he's still living in Utah. The odds are actually kind of high. You try to do the 1 foot in thing, even as you're finding so many things conflict with your beliefs, which it does look like his beliefs had come around to that. He also seems to have been a big part of Reddit culture. We'll see. We'll see wherever else. I mean, the dude's literally I assume he used one of those inscription pens that you can write on metal with.
I have questions about that, but continue.
Yeah. But he's writing memes on it. If you're reading this, you're gay, right? He's literally writing memes. I'm sorry, laughing is the most insensitive thing I'm doing, but it is kind of macabre, in a silly way. It's bizarre. It's strange.
Yeah.
So this is a person who, first of all, your emotional and your intellectual development is stunted by growing in the church. And so many people who aren't Mormon know exactly what I'm talking about, but Mormons aren't going to have that level of self-awareness. The way you can get a group of 25 to 30-year-old Mormon guys over to your barbecue and with no alcohol, they're doing the kind of stuff that usually drunk people do. I actually had a phrase for this back when I was still in the church. I would just call it Mormon drunk. And this example I'm giving you is a real example. They weren't 25. It was my brother, who would have been 24 at the time. And then some other guys who came to a Labor Day barbecue we were having at my girlfriend's place. So I'm 21 at this point, 20 or 21. He would have been 20 or 23, 24 and his friends. And it's it's Labor Day in Wyoming. And they're taking off their clothes and jumping into an above ground pool, which in Wyoming, it is not the time of year you do jump into an above ground pool. Actually, not all of them took off their clothes because it was even funnier to just jump in with their clothes. And they're being loud and they're being crazy and they're doing dances around the fire. And you're literally like, bro, it didn't even take alcohol, but they're doing exactly what they see with. Anyway, it stunts your growth. It does. Your concept of interactions with people. Mormons tend to move out from their family later. They go on these missions that have nothing to do with actually adult development. They often are going to be fully 26 years old, not understanding why is it a big deal to try and date a 17-year-old, right? A 17-year-old. Or let's go with another thing from my family's past. At least this was decades ago. I'm not going to say who it was, but at least one member of my extended or my ancient family, the not my brothers or sisters, at least somebody in was the seminary teacher at 25 years old to who would become his wife, who was 17. And then they basically got married as soon as she turned 18. Yeah, I know. Hashtag me too. That's also from, and Mormons was yeah, that's normal. Wow. 25-year-old bagged himself a nice, hot, fresh teen. That's great. That's great. You're doing great.
I don't like it.
The culture in Mormonism gives you a lot of fucking crazy ideas that you still have to deconstruct from long after you leave the church. And I find myself still seeing, trust me, I've said this before. It's good I don't set the death penalty. I don't decide who lives and dies because pedophiles, I don't know how to get rid of that, because of this is going to sound like more severe things happened than did, but certain things from my own past, but then also of people who I care about and love. And then just in general, my an easy to obtain human empathy for the sexual assault of children is fucking whack. Should, and so I have this level of I don't even believe in the death penalty. And yeah, I think I would. If I was in charge, those are people who would be grouped in. I'd probably put them higher on the list than murderers. So there are elements of that come from that upbringing, though, that come from death is a way to solve problems. You do have to fight for it. Mormons have this. Mormons are doomsday preppers. They've got all the food storage. They've got all that shit. They believe in this apocalyptic end and that before the second coming, this great tumultuous time, and you have to be armed and ready to go. And even crazier thing, I literally had a Mormon, he was He was a part of the young men's organization. So he was a teacher. He would have been like a 30 or something. Maybe a little older than that, but he was teaching our class one day. And he said, Joseph Smith said that the Mormons in the last days, what they go through will be nothing, the Holocaust will be nothing compared to what they go through, which is a few things very interesting. One, tell me you're dying to be oppressed without tell me without telling me that you're dying to be oppressed. But two, Joseph Smith died 80 years or something, 100 years before the Holocaust, 80 to 90 years before the Holocaust. If you can find me the quote where he said that, I'm going to reevaluate whether or not he's a prophet, because he would have predicted it. He didn't. He didn't say any of that. But boy, wow, predicting the Holocaust, that's crazy. That's crazy. Why did nobody prevent it when Joseph Smith was out there saying, like, guys, you know what the Germans are about to do to the Jews? Because without context, that word would have meant nothing. Yeah, I know where these axioms come from, where these attitudes, these presuppositions. And it's also a reason why the more conservative Mormon you were raised, if you become disillusioned with Mormonism, the odds, if you are a man, that you're going to become, at least for a while, a somewhat extreme level of libertarian, quite high. It is like the common cliche step. I'm leaving the church, but now I don't want to be considered a part of any cult. I don't want any organization. The government's a cult now because I got out of one cult. It must mean everything's a cult. The government's a cult. So everything, I want to go live on a homestead with my guns, and you stay. I'm going to get mine and fuck everybody else. I just got to get through this super common step of deconstruction. And so blame, first of all, something we still don't know. Blame his radicalization to the left all you want, even if it turns out that it is true that he became a leftist after it all. I know where he got the guns solve problems and are a holy solution to evil. I know where he got that attitude. It wasn't on a Hassan Piker stream.
Right.
Oh, man.
I wanted to ask about the gun casing having so much on the inside of it.
Outside. On the outside.
Outside? Okay.
Outside of the casing of the bullet.
Right. So I don't know really anything about guns. And so I don't know like what this looks like. How is it really that plausible that he wrote all of that on the case? It just feels like a lot of text. He wrote like a song lyric. He wrote like allegedly a song lyric. He wrote all of these like meme things. And I just keep thinking like, isn't it small?
Do you have Google in front of you?
Yeah.
So he had a Model 98, which uses 30-06. Type in.
Is this going to be something that's going to be bad for me to Google?
No, just type in shell casing period 30-06. So you can see the shell casing. The answer is no. This isn't too small. These cartridges are 3 inches long, 2 inches long.
Okay, I
3
see.
inches long. They're big casings. Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, like it has to be that, like, think about how far away he took. It's a bolt action rifle. Mm-hmm. So, this is look, I don't even know how to say like this part. There's not an amount of gun control that I currently advocate for that would have stopped this one. Like, I still advocate for certain amounts of gun control that would definitely have stopped or reduced the amount of death in mass shootings. This is a bolt action rifle, which I actually do believe everyone has a right to have. You can basically do what he did with a lot of pressure and a large audience. If you are concealed, you probably have one shot. Mm-hmm. To do more than that, you'd have to be kind of like, well, he didn't have a bolt action, but like the Vegas shooter who was isolated and they couldn't get to him to stop him from shooting for so long. But a bolt action rifle you don't load it's not one where you fire and then the active firing loads the next bullet. It is you have to lift, pull the bolt back, and then you might have a thing that loads your cartridge, but you may also be manually putting them in and turn it and then push the bolt back forward, lock it down. It's a big bullet. It's a big casing.
Yeah. Okay. That makes more sense. I just imagined it would be like an inch, maybe 2. And I was
You're
like,
thinking of like a handgun, because a handgun only needs to get you, it's accurate up to however long. Like a decent one, you're probably pretty good even up to like 50 yards. And that means you're a good shot. But a handgun most often is going to be used in close proximity. This is very much like it's basically, is it considered a sniper round? It kind of is. Obviously he used it as a sniper rifle. It's a sniper round. It's going to carry with some amount of accuracy a long distance. So you have to load it up with a lot more explosive power. So it has that force to keep it going straight. And the rifle was a long barrel rifle. So it already gets its start going in a straight line. And so moving it from there is all just as it loses energy. There's a reason why it was so accurate. It was so good a shot. Not to sound like I'm independent. I shoot. So independent of him, that is a crazy shot to make. And I'll tell you why he made it. Because he grew up in a family who valued him shooting, who valued. We don't even know this yet. And yet it's like one of those things I know. I was a decent shot, not because my family valued it. They did, but my dad was just doing church stuff. He never did. My dad didn't teach me to do shit. I went to campouts, father-son campouts. I went with my seminary teacher. I went with another dad, because that's the appropriate thing to do with a seminary teacher, not marry them. Again, which also happened in my family. But the culture values it. Talking about your marksmanship at church, as I did many times, is a thing that you are valued. I learned to hunt. I learned to camp. I learned to all from other people's dads. I learned how to change a tire, change oil. Don't worry. Never a woman, Mormons. Don't worry. You'll be like, at least you didn't learn those things from women. You learned them from good old priesthood leaders.
Oh my God.
Never. But other people's dads taught me all those things.
I did post on Threads, like asking, how could you write truly asking, like, how could anyone write that much on a tiny piece of metal? Like, cause I just genuinely, I just don't know. And, the responses are actually really funny. Like, some of them are like, Antifa gives us all laser printing eyes. You didn't get yours. And then another one is, it should have been included in your 5G nanobot injection, like stuff like that. And it just kind of like
go to show that, like, this is one of those things that whenever certain things come up, like what an AR-15 is, because a lot of people think AR stands for assault rifle when it doesn't. I can't ever even remember the exact word that's correct. Amorite. It's not am I right, but that's what I want my brain to say. That's what my brain is. My assault rifle, which I do own one, isn't an AR-15. Armalite. Sorry, it's not even I'm just moving letters around. Armalite rifle. Anyway, but yeah, there's a lot of ignorance amongst people who. And you asked as a good faith question, so you were fine.
Yeah.
There were people who will then answer, or people who would have said that like on a debate show, like, really? And I'm glad none of them were here. That they would be like, you're going to tell me that somebody inscribed those things on casings? And it's like, sniper casings are huge.
One of the responses is like, and why haven't any images been released? And I'm not asking in like a conspiratorial way. I'm asking because I just like wanted to know, because my perception of them is that they were small. And also another one was, why do libs never use logic? He had tiny transgender drag queen gnomes do all of the work. Duh.
Oh, I thought those were. Yeah. That is right. Right.
Anyway.
Also, and let's make sure that we acknowledge that law enforcement tried to say there was trans things written on it yesterday.
Yeah.
Hence, things got even worse for trans people and the rhetoric around it. But nope, literally none.
When they said that there was pro-Antifa or no, they didn't. I don't know if they initially said pro-anti, but I think they said like anti-fascist, pro-trans symbols or imagery on the bullet casing. I was like, as a person who is pro-trans and anti-fascism, what symbols? What symbols? But now I understand.
Yeah.
Like now that we've seen the whole thing, I understand a little more. But
I'll also say this. We know he's politically unaffiliated and politically inactive. He didn't vote in the last 2 elections. So please spare me whatever type of leftist you think he was. I've been shaming leftists who didn't vote at all since the election, since before the election, as a leftist. That if you aren't voting against Donald Trump, that is as good as voting for the Führer. You are, and I'm not going to stop calling them Nazis and fascists because they are. They are. Yeah. But I think we're in the stage where we can still prevent what happened without violence. But it doesn't mean that I don't think that that's where they're trying to take it. And I think we can, well, obviously we're a communication arm, this being a podcast, but we have our call-in shows as well. We're a communication arm of a leftist movement, not arm of their movement, because we don't get paid by anybody. I'm doing this out of sheer goodwill. Supposedly everybody's getting these checks from George Soros, and Georgie boy, my boy, where's my cash? And Chorus certainly isn't giving us anything because we don't like the Democrats. We don't like the DNC. I talk mad shit about fuck Biden, send him to jail too, all the time. I did see somewhere that he did donate to the Trump campaign, this most recent campaign. But it's like everything is coming out too fast and too slow at the same time. And then it like spreads like rapid fire, and it's just all of it's too early. And I definitely don't think that was a confirmed thing. And I wouldn't put that in the category of things that I'd float, because the Mormonism thing seems to be well supported enough, even though that's not necessarily fully confirmed, but like clearly comes from a heavily conservative Mormon family, heavily conservative Mormon area. Like, I mean, and ultimately, go ahead. If we want to be so fair, we don't know for sure that that's even like really the person that did it. Like technically it's still alleged, but you know, like there's so much. Anyway, all that to say, like take some of this with a grain of salt and be responsible with the information that you get about this person in this situation. Exactly like the guy on the photos confessed. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it was him. Yeah. Now Luigi, on the other hand, he and I were planting flowers in Tijuana. Luigi could not have done it. We were flower picking, flower planting, flower picking. That's what we were up to. I don't want to hear another word about it. All right. We'll take a little, I guess last thing I would also say though, is I also know you're not going to get to gaslight. The way Mormonism has this, if it's somebody you like, the devil did it. And if it's somebody who didn't, it must have been God's will. The callousness when people like Christopher Hitchin died, it was like, well, you know, or when they get cancer, when I hit my own like slew of health issues, huge ones after I left the church, totally ignoring I had a bunch of them before I left the church. But when new headlines were coming, I don't like to get too personal, but when new headlines about my health stuff was coming back in the day, literally getting messages is of like, if you want healing, you got to return to church. This is God trying to call you home. This is God. The way they will internalize, but act like they're saying it in love, externalize, like they're externalizing it in love, that the evil that happened to you is because you are evil, is bananas.
Yes, bananas. Indeed.
BANANAS.
Bananas.
So we also, it's if this had happened to somebody on the left by this same guy, but didn't get quote unquote radicalized to the left, you would have the two sides of like, oh, well, of course we don't think that's right. But you know, God, am I doing the outro? I meant to do the ad break.
I think that is the outro.
Let's cut forward a little bit.
Oh, wow. I've never heard them back to back like that. I never noticed like the difference in how they sound. Got a little bit of electric guitar in there. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. What a crazy situation. Do you want to talk about Caroline Leavitt and the birthday book?
We can talk about anything you want when we get back.
All right.
And that's what we'll do. We'll be right back.
Would you like to be one of the cool people who can prove they were supporting this podcast right from the beginning? Well, you can. Head over to linemerch.com. That's linemerch.com and pick up some founders merch for The Line Has a Podcast that will only be available for a short time and features the rough draft drawn logo that soon will be updated to look less like it was drawn by a 3-year-old. That's linemerch.com. Hey, you might be listening or watching this on The Line, but this is its own thing called The Line Has a Podcast. We thought you'd want to know it exists and give you some links to follow its official YouTube channel and the links for other podcast locations. We are only sharing the Friday show on this channel for a while, but we do more episodes on this channel you will never see. Also, you can join the Reddit if there are stories or topics you want the host to see.
Check that description for the sweet, sweet links. Also, I'm going to add a clarification in here because I wrote that thing and I think it's confusing. Friday episodes are here, but any other episode is on the other channel. So you won't see it on this channel. This channel will never see those. Because there was something about it where I thought it sounded like a magic trick. You'll never even see the podcast. The podcast is meant to be an audio form. Anyway, please go follow. We really need the money for food. Do you not? I have lost 75 pounds because we don't have enough subscribers. No, that's not true. Okay, bye. Thank you, everybody. On to the show.
I did that at the exact same time.
Wow, it won't have recorded that way.
Fuck.
Yeah,
okay.
It never does.
If you're watching this, please know that I just instinctively just did the and it was at the exact same time. Wow, I feel good about that.
That's good.
Anyway, I wanted to talk about Caroline Leavitt doing a press conference and being asked about the Epstein birthday book.
Yes.
Because
do not forget, people. Do not even let this distract you.
Not
Release
even for a second.
The Epstein files.
Yes. So now we've gotten to see many pages of this birthday book, which first of all, I think is very funny. It kind of makes you feel like they were just like sorority girls, like making a birthday book for their friend. Like, it's just kind of funny. Like, what did you use? Shuttershock? Like, or Shutterfly? Whatever is Shutterfly. It's just so funny. But yeah, she has been insisting that the page with that dialogue typed out back and forth with the woman's figure drawn over top of it, that the signature on it is not Donald Trump's signature. He has one of the most famous signatures in the world, and that's not his. And it was forged. And the idea that the entire book would be made by Jeffrey Epstein's friends, and then somehow, and all of it has to be true, because they're gonna blame Bill Clinton, they're gonna blame every person in there who is a Democrat. They're gonna blame all of them and hold them accountable, but Donald Trump is the only one. Just his was forged, and a forged document was put into Jeffrey Epstein's birthday book.
There is an interesting thing. This is full grain of salt, because I'm not going to say James O'Keefe is trustworthy, since he was not trustworthy when he was doing it to the left. But James O'Keefe did do like a undercover thing where he has on video a deputy person to Pam Bondi saying things like bragging about the way they were going to make it, basically get all the conservatives out of the files and just release the Democrats. Basically that it was going to come out that way. And it's one of those things where it's like, wait, let's wait for validation. Let's not jump on it. But also we all already knew that's what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why it's taking so long to release the I think they know eventually it's going to have to happen. So they're like, well, let's make sure when it happens, we got more time. Let's figure out which of these guys we want to punish or threaten. Like, hey, just so you know, you could end up back on this list. We could unredact your name unless maybe you got a little bit of, maybe you could come sit next to me at a dinner. I'm not saying Bill Gates, but that's why his wife left him. And then there's Bill Gates at a dinner. Oh, Mr. President, here we are, ready to kiss your fucking ass. And with Zuckerberg on the other side, what a fucking team of winners is Donald Trump to his left. You got Bill Gates and Donald Trump to his right. I'm not sure he's aware because that side of his face be drooping off. Are we going to talk about that?
Oh,
did you see?
Okay. It also confirmed my suspicion that his statement was AI generated because
let's not
he
say
looks,
confirms. Let's say supports.
my suspicion.
It supports your suspicion.
It supports
and by the
my
way,
suspicion.
I think we were all suspicious of it as soon as we saw it because it looks an awful lot like AI videos.
It does, which, like, again, we can't confirm, but I just kept looking at it and I was like, this just, something is off. There's a glitch in his hand if you look very closely. But then seeing him in the way he looked the literal next day, actually not even a whole day later, like at what would have been 12 hours later, maybe 18 hours later.
Because guess what, everybody? Yesterday was 9/11. Did you forget? You weren't supposed to. There was songs about it. Never forget. 9/11 was the worst thing we ever said. Never forget about. Because we pretend to love Israel, but we try to steal the phrase. Never forget about 3,000 people killed by Muslims. Even though it was supposed to be about 6 million Jews in the Holocaust. Never forget. Thank you.
When's it coming out on Spotify?
Oh, I don't know. Supposedly some of my impromptu intros are getting mixing treatments by a producer though on calling it now. So we'll see. We'll see what kind of work we got going.
But yeah, like his face was so droopy that I was like, okay, there's no way he didn't have a massive stroke. There's no fucking way.
I wouldn't say massive, but strokes.
Something happened.
Signs of strokes in his face. And I'm not even going to diagnose him that. Maybe when he falls asleep, maybe the man has had Botox and it was unevenly put. Maybe there's been treatments recently to make him look more spry, even as we're spotting things like evidence of a catheter, evidence of a, what are those pulmonary stimulators on his waist, evidence of IV treatments as his hand looks like fucking shit, evidence of cankles. Okay. Happy Cankmas, everybody.
I want there to be a book that needs to be the title of the book that goes into the conspiracy of all of the health stuff that they've covered up. I want it to just be called Evidence of Cankles.
And it'd be a coffee picture book, a book for your coffee table. And it's like,
oh, Jesus.
Merry Cankmas.
Oh my God.
The man was falling asleep at a 9/11 memorial.
Yeah. Sure was.
What I believe is supposed to be usually his spry time, though I understand he doesn't leave his executive private time where he's ingesting the news often until like before noon or something. And technically this was in the morning because they were like commemorating 9/11. He must have missed his dose of antihistamines, which seems to be how he keeps himself peppy all the time. At least we've caught pictures of those things all over the place, all over his places. Speculation. This guy, his face just was falling asleep at different rates. Okay. His face took a nap.
Different quadrants of his face were falling asleep. They were not communicating with each other.
The right side of his face took a nap at 9:15. The left side didn't show up till 9:30. Okay. This is what was happening. Do I know for a fact he is having strokes? No, I don't. Could other things have done it? No, I don't. Could being an ugly 90-year-old man mean your face, like if you're not actively holding it up, the whole thing droops, and maybe he just was like one at a time. Well, I got to pick one side of this face that I'm going to hold up right now. And, I don't want anybody to think that I do anything but lean to the right. So I'm just going to lean my face off to the right. Maybe that's what it was. His face was no longer politically moderated. It showed its political bias. Or perhaps it is what it most commonly is when a person's face looks like a sign that this man has had a stroke.
Perhaps.
Or several strokes, mini strokes. Clearly he has enough cognitive ability. Look, a few weeks ago when we were hopeful that the news was coming, a few weeks ago, I said then, I'm worried it's just going to be a flu or something. And it seems like that probably is what happened, is that he had a flu that knocked him down for a couple of days. But like with COVID, we would have never found out he had COVID if it wasn't going to be obvious that he was taking a helicopter to Walter Reed. We would have never found out otherwise. But here we are at the end of times. He's not looking so hot. And Tattoo over there doesn't seem ready to take over the presidency.
Tattoo.
From that,
Like
from,
tattoo.
from that movie, from that show. Tattoo.
So funny. I also want to make one more quick note about the statement that Trump gave the night of Charlie's assassination, murder. I don't know what we're calling it. What's also kind of one of the many ironies of the whole thing is how quickly Trump just made a statement about it being the radical left before we had a shooter confirmed, before we knew anything. And so he immediately riled up his entire community by saying it was the radical left and created a political conversation, putting everyone on the left, in danger. He also mentioned that leftist organizations are going to be scrutinized and removed and all these things. I can't remember the exact word he used, so don't quote me on that. But for people who, again, feel very strongly about free speech, we now are having conversations of free speech for me and not free speech for you. And that was his immediate response. So again, for people the following day to post, him at Yankee Stadium and he's a fucking hero. Yep. It's just so incongruent. You just literally, you have no backbone. You are spineless.
Have you seen the AI statues that they're like, we should erect this statue of Charlie Kirk? And so many of them, he's in the seated position without the microphone, but from his debates, brother looks like he's pooping. Why do you guys want him? Why do you guys want these statues of Charlie Kirk? Oh my pooping?
God.
If you're going to do it, at least do it. Don't make the guy poop. Yeah. I don't know, whatever. The thinker looks like he's pooping too, okay? So
he does.
To tell you the truth, I gotta think the thinker is pooping, right?
Honestly,
I think that the artist was like, this is where I get a lot of my best ideas. They didn't have hot showers back then.
Right. Some of the best ideas are formed on the toilet, right on the can.
I actually unironically get a lot of my best ideas in a warm shower. If I've just taken indefinite time. Yeah. But if I didn't have warm showers, there wasn't hot water running.
The second option is pooping. My good ideas. I've said on this podcast before, I'm not to be weird, but I was thinking about this in the shower. But that's when I have you're not using your phone and no one can really realistically reach you. I mean, they can.
It stimulate your brain a different way too.
Yeah. It's a nice little. I don't know.
But some people will recognize that certain ideas of mine probably came from the toilet. I know a lot of people complimenting me being like, Jimmy, this podcast seems like one of your toilet ideas. I get it. I get it. Thank you so much. It really seems like you thought this out while you were pooping.
I'm gonna start every time you post something on Threads and it's something that's a little bit, something has gone amiss. I'm gonna ask you if it's one of your toilet ideas.
Is this a toilet idea? Except those are good ideas. Those are my good ideas. Those are the good ones. All of my best ideas that led to our fundraisers in the past, raising a lot of money, happened in the shower though.
Yeah.
I'm not even joking. I would be in the shower day before and I'm like, okay, we got to do these games. We got to figure out something. Oh, what if we did blah, blah, blah. Golden microphone, the thing that we've done a bunch of times. That was a shower idea.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, what else? It just feels like this is I'll say, okay, I think that I'm through talking about Charlie Kirk for the most part. I posted the last things I will about him today, and I think I'm through with that, unless there's some big new development. But as things are, I'm not really interested in talking about him anymore. But the impact of this whole event is much larger than him. Now more than ever, I am the most scared I've ever been about being surveilled. I'm the most scared I've ever been about, I was considering traveling in the next couple of weeks, and I'm not going to because I am nervous about handing my ID to someone who might have my name on a legitimate list somewhere. There's someone who built a website that is compiling people who appear to be celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. which I explicitly said it was not something to celebrate and I still think that that's true, obviously by the impact that it's had. But like the conversations that I've had to have, I mean, even with you, Jimmy, about like things that our community now has to consider to keep each other safe. Conversations I've had to have with my parents.
Using encrypted messaging forms, if not disappearing, y'all.
Yeah.
Anything, they are going to try to make even calling these fascists illegal. Like that is what they are signaling right now, that they want to make it, maybe they're going to try and take it. We're going to implement laws that make it easy to do a defamation case if somebody calls you a Nazi, whatever it is. But that's even Trump is trying to signal that that's the direction they're going. Yeah.
So, you know, it's interesting because in light of this whole conversation, and this is like kind of personal, but I had a conversation with my boyfriend and I was basically saying, I was like, I'm really scared. Like, I'm scared. I've never been really scared like this before. And this was like right after it happened too. And it was like very much like the alarms are sounding. So I don't feel as nervous about it now, but I was like very scared right in the moment. I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Because Charlie's not a politician and he is, for all intents and purposes, like he's a debater online and he's a political influencer, which like,
no, that's not enough. Because he's also Turning Point USA is a huge
Turning Point
political organization with so much money that was funding. Even being like, he's not a politician. He was picking politicians. So that's not really like, he's not us. We're not picking politicians. We are truly just debating online. Suggest like the person who is picking politicians is a tier above is a politician. People who are trying to like limit his impact, and I'm not accusing you of this, a lot of his side, all he ever did was engage in good faith. No,
please, bullshit.
He actively participated in ruining this country further.
Yeah. And this whole event has created like the reason why we cannot accept this as being something that, you know, is like an unnuanced, well, he put out hate into the world, so he got it right back is, you know, now we're in a situation where like there are really big safety implications for all of anybody online, not just us. And, it like it lit a fire under the administration's ass to double down on anyone who is speaking out against the administration, against, you know, whatever Charlie Kirk has shared and what his legacy is, which is, you know, speaks for itself. So I don't know. It's been like a really weird couple of days because of that.
Yep.
Really strange.
A reminder, we are putting this out. We recorded it around 1 p.m. So new information may come out. Some of the stuff may have become outdated. I feel pretty okay with what we've said. I'm not too worried about it, but who knows? Maybe we're going to find out all of the things pointing one way, that in fact he was a Baptist, not a Mormon. He was a member of he was Ukraine. He was from Ukraine. I don't know what we're going to find out, but I think I don't think we're going to be far off from, but just a reminder, details could get updated. For all we know, they're going to be like, you know what, fucking crazy. This was the third wrong guy. We got the wrong guy again. Our bad. Turns out it was that old bald guy from the first one, we think. We're going to revisit that guy. The old bald guy. Could have been, could be. Who could be? You know who it wasn't? It wasn't me. And it wouldn't be me, because that's not what I actually believe in. As you guys tell me, you did this, you were calling for this. As you literally are pretending. By the way, they did this when Trump was shot too. The sentiments of like, or shot at, and something great may have grazed his ear. The same sentiment. It was all like, oh, well, now it's open season. Now we're not going to be nice anymore. We commit most of the political violence, but now we're not going to be nice. Okay. And I'm going to continue eating rice. As in, yesterday's going to look a lot like today, and today's going to look a lot like tomorrow. Yeah. Yesterday was 9/11. Did you forget? Release the Epstein files. That's the show. Sorry.